everyone, welcome to Let's Talk About Fixed Star. I'm Rod Chang, and of course, I couldn't make this program without my best friend. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Rod. Hi, everyone.
Okay, so, this is the once a month our time to enjoy with the stars. And I always, I always love the old kind of star lore story with the fixed star and the constellation. That's, to be honest, this is how I step into astrology in my childhood because I love all the story and mythology. But today we have a one. First, it's not one star; it's many stars. And also, I think both you and me, we face a big challenge when we decide to talk about this star or this group of star, this cluster, because they even also have so many stories, right? Yeah. Now, how many stories you prepare today?
Actually, I scanned through my hard disk and found 126 pages about star law, about the Pleiades, and I thought you couldn't tell everything of it, so I skipped 90% of it.
You skip 90%, and you still have lots to tell. Yeah. For me, I choose one particular area, and even I still have 3 stories to tell. So today, I think this will be our special program, maybe our last 2 hours long. We will try not do it. Okay, so first, we will say, what is this today's topic? I think it's an important fixed stars, right? Important cluster, because I think also the ancient people know they are not just one star there, but how many different people, different time, they say different things, either from 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, 11, I don't know, quite a lot. They have different number. So, well, could you tell us what's the name?
We are talking about the Pleiades.
Pleiades. Do you know how to spell it? Okay, I'm teasing you because every time when I try to write down these Pleiades, I have maybe spell it 4 or 5 times, try to place all the E and I and A and E in the different place to get it correct.
And you know, the German way of typing it, spelling it, is nearly the same than English. It's just a small conversion of one I. And
Really?
so I do always the same mistake as you. It's always word is marking me that I spelled it, wrote it correctly. Always.
Yeah, where should I put this E? Is that in the first one or in the second one? And where is the I? But maybe, I'm not a good student. I always too lazy to memorize things. That's maybe my problem. So, well, that's a start. Okay, as usual, I will go through the astronomy themes and also a little bit about the sky. And we will look a little bit about how the not so ancient, but still ancient Vivian Robson and everything what they talk and Manilius. And then Christian will give us some story about the your point of view, right? And then we will see the different cultures. So, well, Pleiades, well, some people call it Seven Sister, right? Seven Sister. And then, but today we will involve, which is another part of this cluster. We will talk about for Maori in New Zealand and the Pacific Polynesian, how they see the Pleiades. They call it a Matariki, the eye of the gods. Well, first, we were talking about astronomy. Well, Pleiades. Well, why I mark Alcyon or Alcyon, I let you say it, in here, because some fixed star catalog only mark Alcyon without Pleiades. So I will put them together. And also today's position, the position I give to you is based on Alcyon rather than whole Pleiades. I will explain why. The first we have to know is the Pleiades is in the constellation of Taurus. It's on the back of Taurus. I will show you later. But because it's not just one star, as we say, if you look at this picture, you can see many, many, many little tiny twinkle stars. And you will see the light, you can see those gas around them. Well, I think usually we say seven sister. I think this is associated with the Greek mythology. And also, if I heard some people say, those sailors in the ancient time, they have to do their eye test. So their eye test is like, you look in the night, look in the Pleiades and just tell them how many stars you can see. But I was just thinking, because I know there's a seven sisters, so I can always cheating, right? Even I just see something like one or two, I'll still tell them seven. Okay. But because it's a whole group, it's an open cluster, so it's like many, many star in the group area. So that's why I only give you Alakion's degree, because the whole dimension is 110 arc minutes. Well, if I don't make mistake, I say it's nearly 2 degrees. I mean, okay, but it's quite bright. The magnitude is plus 1.6. For most astrologer, we want to know where it is now. Okay, but it is quite important because you will see Alakion's celestial longitude today is 0 degree Gemini, 18 minutes. I know this is not really important for Christian, because when Christian apply the fixed star, the zodiac degree is not 100% relevant, not 100%, but still. But
May I interrupt you? The
yes,
Pleiades are one of the things where I look at the degree, because they are not that far away from the ecliptic. They are
okay,
8 degrees above the ecliptic. So this is in the belt of the zodiac. So
yeah.
that may be valid.
Thank you for the correction. Okay, then its position in year 2000, very interesting, 29 degree Taurus 59. So it crossed the sign, it changed sign in the after year 2000. Okay, and Alkiel in 1980s, its degree is 29 degree Taurus 43 minutes. Okay, it is a very important, let me just call it a fixed star. It is a very important fixed star. Let me say that. Although I know it's a cluster, it's not just one. Okay. If you want to know where it is, it's very easy to see. I think, especially I think in the early winter, late autumn, you can really see Taurus appear in the sky, especially in the midwinter. You can really see it hanging high above the sky. Then you can see the Pleiades, Alkion, and also the Aldebaran. Those fixed star in Taurus appear in the sky, and they're very easy to see, especially Pleiades, because it really looked like a jewelry box. A lot of a tiny pearl or a lot of a jewel hanging there. You couldn't avoid it. It's very beautiful. I think how to see the constellation is training your eye and using your imagination. And also is like a concept of culture, because as we are in North Hemisphere, and also as long as we are learning Western astrology, we've been told that this part of sky is a bull, is Taurus. And then there's a horn, there's a face, and then the Pleiades is on the bull's back. So you can find the horn, that you can very quickly find where is Pleiades. My experience is very interesting. There are a few times I went to South Hemisphere, I went to Australia. When I look at the sky, I totally lost. I even couldn't find out where is Orion. So I'd like to challenge you to look at this picture, because it is very interesting because everything is upside down now, and especially when the Taurus is quite close to north part of the sky, so it's quite close to horizon, and then you will see this is how they see Taurus and the Orion. So without those constellation line, you may have difficult to form the Orion or Taurus. So very interesting. This is part of a story I will talk about later today. Is so like for Polynesian and the Maori people, they see this part of the sky like a huge canoe, a god drive this canoe, and the guiding by Pleiades. This is the Maori story about this part of the sky. It's quite interesting. And well, let's come to the explanation. How other astrologer see Pleiades? No, but for Ptolemy, it's quite simple because Ptolemy really care about is the combination of planet and their degree. So Pleiades has a moon-Mars nature, which I am not surprised because, to be honest, if you look through the Ptolemy or Vivian Robertson's book, you will notice nearly, maybe say 90% of cluster and the nebula, they always give them moon Mars. And another thing, I will not surprise, I don't need to memorize their book. If it's nebula or cluster, they will always tell you blindness, eye problem. That's just because when you look at them and they appear a little bit foggy, a little bit, vaguely, you couldn't see it clear, so they are related to eye problem, maybe, Okay, so what Vivian tell us? What Vivian Robson say? This the influence of Pleiades make their native wanton. Again, an ancient English now we rarely use today. Then I try to check the dictionary, which means loose, which means not serious. Okay, or a little bit, tricky. Okay, especially sexual wise. Well, ambitious, turbulent, optimistic, and peaceful, which confuse me a little bit now. In one way, they are turbulent, and in another way, they are peaceful.
Mixed
Okay.
bag.
Okay. The journey, voyage, success in agriculture, intelligence, cause blindness. I'm not surprised if it's nebula, will usually linking with blindness. Well, what everything say is the Pleiades give ambitions and give honor, glory, but not good on with regard to relationship to opposite sex. My question is, it's bad for all the relationship, or only to opposite sex. How about a relationship with same sex? Or how about a relationship with a gender fluid? I don't know. It's today. It must be our question. Must be later, or our fellow will answer. Our friend will answer those questions. Me, I don't know. Let me read a little bit about Manilius. I always adore him because, to be honest, although I mean he is a long time ago. It was a long time ago he wrote all these things, but I like his approach. Usually, his approach is more related to mythology and much easy to understand. But however, the translation is always difficult to read, so I just make a summarized. Manilius think people born under influence of Pleiades are likely to be charming, outgoing, and witty. Well, they're quite good in party, I think, because they take a lot of effort over their appearance. So it's like, tidy up their clothes and tidy up their hair, use a perfume, and do a lot of things, and may be considered androgynous. Well, again, I think what I just say, remember what I just say? Is that only to opposite sex? Or maybe gender fluid, or maybe, you know, no binary. This is kind of no binary meaning, you know. So they are kind of, you know, there's no very clearly male quality or female quality in under the influence of this star. So I feel quite interesting. But I think the most important is Christian. What story you going to bring to us?
So I first do the screen sharing and start the presentation. So as you said, Rod, astronomical, it's of course an open star cluster, and the Pleiades are a very young cluster of at least, I think, 1,200 stars. And no group of stars has attracted so much the attention as the Pleiades. They are and were something captivating in almost every culture, I think. And you even find the Pleiades appearing 3 times in the Old Testament. Here are the sources when you are interested in what the Old Testament says about the Pleiades. As I said before, there is so much to say about the Pleiades, where to begin and where to end. It was really a nightmare, the preparation. So much precious stories you have to skip because of time reasons. So I thought where to begin, where to end. And yeah, I think I will begin at the beginning. What a surprise. At the beginning in Sumer and Mesopotamia. And some of you might know that in Sumer, the Pleiades are simply called the stars. And they say the Sumerian word for it is mul, mul. Also mul means star, and mul in Mesopotamia means Pleiades, so star, star. And they were often, here is a cuneiform for it, 2 times mul.
Star, mul, mul, okay.
And you often find, when you find 7 dots in an image of Sumer or Babylon, it's probably the Pleiades. I go back that you can see these 7 dots. One more time, that you really can see it. And they were often depicted as these 7 dots, or they just put 7 stars on it. So 90%, this means they refer to the Pleiades. And the role of the Pleiades in Mesopotamia was based on 2 groups, and each of these 2 groups based on 7 divine beings. So once again, the number 7. And the first group actually is positive. And here the Pleiades are chief gods who counsel together on the destiny of the land. And in this case, the omens predict positive things for the harvest and the fate of the land. So the Pleiades also have a positive side in Mesopotamian astrology. Most of the people who deal with Mesopotamian astrology refer to this negative side. The second group is really dark and destructive, and the Pleiades were associated with the god of the underworld, Nergal, and with their most evil planet, Mars. And they were also equated with the 7 demons called Sebetu, who caused, by the way, the lunar eclipses, these 7 demons. And accordingly, the omens here forecast war and devastation of the land. And a guy wrote a really interesting essay about the Pleiades. He's called Lorenzo Verdame. He's an ancient Orientalist from the University of Rome. And he suggests that war and agriculture were both seasonal affairs. So the rising of the Pleiades may have marked the beginning of the agriculture work and the start of the military campaign. Both happened on the same time in Mesopotamia. And in addition, the Pleiades play an important role in calendar calculation in Mesopotamia and Sumer, as well as in the calculation of the leap years. And in the cave paintings of Lascaux, there are 6 dots above the drawing of an AOAUK. And it's believed that these dots are the Pleiades. We are not quite sure about this, but probably it might be the Pleiades. And probably the Pleiades are also depicted on the Nebra sky disk. There you can see 6 stars symmetrical arranged around the 7s. So once again, the number 7, as you mentioned before, brought the 7 sisters. And in Greek mythology, the Pleiades, Maya, Electra, Taygete, Alcyone, Selino, Stereope, Merope were the daughters of the Titan Atlas.
Could you say it again? No.
Nice to me. This is so complicated for me.
I know. I'm
it.
so glad you do this part and I can avoid it.
So they were the daughter of Atlas and the Oceanic nymph Pleione. And these nymphs raised Dionysus and Zeus, and as doves they brought Zeus his ambrosia. And for this they had to fly through 2 clapping rocks, which also the Argo had to pass, the Symplegades. And one of these doves always paid his passage with her life and was always replaced by Zeus, perhaps to keep the 7 stars complete. They also were the virgin companions of Artemis, whom Orion pursued and tried to rape. And their father, Atlas, was forced to guard the sky and therefore could not protect his daughters. They were turned into doves and transferred to the sky as a constellation. But even there, as you can see, they are still pursued by Orion, which is located about 30 degrees southeast of the Pleiades. And what I found when I read all these different myths, especially the myth from Greece and the Aborigines, they really have similar myth about the Pleiades and Orion. So both cultures see the Pleiades as a group of young girls, and in both Orion is male, and in both Orion tries to have sex with the 7 sisters. And these similarities suggest a common origin, and I found an essay of a female ancient Orientalist, I forgot her name, maybe I can tell you later. And these similarities, she said, she suggested, that's also very difficult to say, she suggested a common origin that must predate European contact with the Australian Aborigines. And she said this was around 100,000 BCE.
Wow. So
when the ancestors of both cultures migrated from Africa, and perhaps, we don't know, of course, perhaps the roots of the 7 sisters go back to 100,000 BCE, maybe. For the Vikings, the Pleiades were the chickens of their goddess Freya. And
Wait a minute, am I getting it right? It's a KFC chicken? A chicken?
yes,
Okay, that's right. I just want to, you know, to
yes, thank you. Yeah. And I don't know if this is popular also in the UK. We have St. Martin's Day, which is celebrated on the 11th of November in Germany and Austria and Switzerland, which is also the traditional day to eat the Martin's goose. This is the typical
Yummy.
dish.
So now I remember 11th of November, right?
Yes.
You have to invite me because I love them.
You know, I'm a vegetarian, so I do my very best to get one for you.
Thank you. They look delicious.
And the Celts also kept goose as pets and cult animals. And the distrustful and weather-sensitive gooses served the Celts as watchdogs all year round. And in autumn, the Celts slaughtered the entire flock except for one breeding pair. And this always happened on the 11th of November, the day on which the Pleiades returned to the night sky after sunset. So they're a chronicle rising.
Okay.
And this was the beginning of their winter. So St. Martin's Day is a kind of pagan harvest festival.
Interesting.
Of course, most of you know the Samhain festival, one of the 4 great Celtic festivals. And Samhain began on the night of November the 1st, but in the Celtic Germanic region, the 11th of November is traditionally the more important date. And in Wales, the festival was called Night of the Beginning of Winter, and was one of the so-called 3 spirit nights. And the festival revolves around the theme of death, and many contacts with the other world are made or dissolved. So the supernatural enters the world. The veils between the 2 worlds are particularly thin. And this background made Samhain, so a meeting between the living and the dead. And due to procession, of course, the Pleiades no longer mark the festival, but the association has nevertheless survived. And as we said 1,000 times before, many cultures insist on the existence of 7 stars, although most people can only see 6. And the myth then often explains why the 7th star is invisible. So stories of the lost Pleiades you can find in Europe, Africa, Asia, Indonesia, America, and even in Australia. And in Greek mythology, the Pleiad Merope married the mortal Sisyphus, and out of shame, she covered her face. And in Aboriginal mythology, one of the sisters dies or hides or is too young or is abducted so that only 6 are visible. And in Islam, I found that quite interesting. In Islam, the 7th star fell to earth and became the great mosque. Maybe there is a long time ago, there were 7 visible stars, and one of them is no longer visible today, ? We don't know. Once again, I found a very interesting essay about this, and they say the 6 brightest stars in the Pleiades are, of course, I have to say it again, Alcyone, Merope, and Electra, Maya, and Taygete, and Atlas. And Pleione is the next brightest star, and therefore the obvious candidate for the 7th star. But Pleione is so close to the bright star Atlas, making it difficult to see with the naked eye. So Selino and Sterope are faint and most people cannot see them.
Mm.
And because of Pleioni's proper motion, maybe this star used to be far enough away from Atlas in 100,000 BCE to be perceptible to the human eye as a seventh star. Maybe this is just a suggestion. And finally, we come to astrology. As you said, of course, it's a lot of stars. It's an open star cluster, but I mainly use Alcyone, the brightest star, and the Pleiades for astrological purposes. And as you know, the Pleiades belong to the so-called Bohemian fixed stars, the 15 Bohemian fixed stars. And the Pleiades have always been associated with eye problems, as you said. And this is generally the case with open star clusters. And as you say too, here the tradition of the eye test probably is taken up. And Alcyone, the main star of the Pleiades, is, according to Bernadette Brady, a mystical star related to the concept of the third eye. And this inner eye is said to go beyond normal vision, meaning one can experience visionary and mystical states. Or on a more mundane level, Alcyone has an interest in metaphysical or spiritual subjects. And this star has really a strong urge to strive for inner knowledge, to illuminate hidden areas, and to see connections and how they evolve. So it is forward-looking, visionary, and intuitively understands the zeitgeist. And Alcyone senses in a flash what dynamics are going on between people or groups. But of course, not every intuitive insight is necessarily correct, and so one should adopt a self-critical attitude towards one's intuitive insights. On the shadow side, Alcyone has a tendency to be a bit arrogant and dogmatic out of its certainty about its perceptions and knowledge. So this is the way I see the Pleiades, and it's based on Bernadette Brady's research work. So
Wow.
stop here, and I'm really sorry that I have to skip so much interesting stories. This is really so interesting. There is a wonderful Wikipedia article. When you're interested in star lore about the Pleiades, just go to Wikipedia. There is a whole entry about the Pleiades in folklore, or how do you pronounce it? Folklore? Pleiades in the folklore of the countries, or something like that. You find a lot of stories and really interesting ones.
Yes. Well, so we will come to the other cultures. To be honest, you cover a big part of nearly every cultures, and you're so kind to even go to, Asian and the Pacific area, so I can tell something. Well, okay, the first is from my 98% of my culture, which means Chinese culture. Well, which is very interesting because in the North Hemisphere, and quite interesting, they always associate Pleiades with winter, because this is what I find in the most ancient record of Pleiades in Chinese culture is a record, right, in the so-called Book of Document, which is the documentary for all the ceremony or all the important ritual and poetry, and also the record of document, government document in the ancient China. So this is what they say. They say, on the shortest day of the year, we see the Mao. So this is the name in Chinese of the Pleiades. They call it Mao Mansion. We see Mao stars appear in the south part of the sky right after sunset. Then it is winter solstice. So it's a mark of winter solstice, Pleiades, we use the, after sunset, It's quite interesting. And then another interesting story which I read is they explain the meaning of Mao, which is just some grass like a reed, like those Congo grass. They have a lot of hairy. So I was wondering why, because is that because you see a lot of stars or look like a hair or something else? But basically, it also related to war and the territory problem or the war in the in the phone line. So well, but for ancient Chinese emperor, nearly every star related to war. So I don't want to go there. I want their special meaning. However, today I want to go to another part of my heritage. I have kind of a 1% of the our nation, which means the Polynesian and Pacific Islanders DNA in me, just 1%. But I'm so proud of it because there's an interesting story I'm going to tell you. So in the Maori in New Zealand, also I think also in the Polynesian, they call the Pleiades Matariki. The word in Maori language Matariki has can mean two things. One is Pleiades. Then I find in Maori, in Polynesian language, also in some Taiwan Aboriginal language, Mata means the eye. Mata means the eye. And so the translation of Matariki means the eye of God. Interesting, there is a very short description in ancient Chinese star catalog talking about the Pleiades. He said, is eye and the ear of the god.
Wow.
Yes, but only one sentence and never been mentioned again. I just like, why? You can see, like you say, it could be the same root from the beginning, from our ancestors move out of Africa, because there's so many tiny things put it together. Then when they say the eye of God, then in Maori story, this eye belonged to the god called Tauri Matia. Then it's guy of the wind and weather. Well, there's a many story, but I will pick up this two or three. The first is creation story in the Maori's creation mythology during the ancient time. The every god would living together, created by sky and earth. But they want more space to live, so they try to separate their parents. Then during the separation of sky, their father, and earth, their mother, there's a lot of fight in the family fight. So this wind god, Tawimatia, finally choose to stay with his father. He's a wing, so he's choose to stay with Sky. But he has to leave his brother, sister, his mother. He was so grieved, he was so upset. In the end, he torn out of his eyes and crushed them and put them on the chest of the Sky, of his father, to show his grief of separation of his parents, which I find quite fascinating. To be honest, if we talk about the story of seven sisters in the mythology or something, there's usually life, death, and the separation, and the sadness are related to Pleiades. Even some version of a Pleiades, the seven sisters, some of them say one sister was dead, so they are weeping, they are crying for them. Well, but another story, part of Matariki, is the Matariki as a group of god and goddess. The goddess Matariki is the mother, stay with 8 of her children. So now we have 9, I think. Maori, they can see 9 stars because there's a Matariki and the 8 children. But these 8 children are god and goddess of nature. They are related to water, to the sea, to the rain, to the wind, to the food, to the fish, to death. So nearly everything. And this is very interesting because later I will explain why these 8 gods in the Matariki is so important. Because another meaning of Matariki means the new year in Maori's lunar calendar. Maori use heliacal rising of Matariki. Again, they use the heliacal rising or Cleon rising, you know, the heliacal rising of Matariki to mark beginning of the year. Well, the exact day they will choose, consider about the lunation, usually is the waning moon, because for observation to see the stars. Apart from the festival, this is the important part. During this time, the first, Maori will also mourning about those people who pass away during the past year. The second part is they will make forecasting or say prediction for the upcoming year, for next year, by observation of this Pleiades, Matariki. So there is the 8 or 9 star there. They will observe that when they are heliacal rising, and to see the distance, to see the color, to see the shape, to see the glow, and then make prediction about the harvest or weather for next year. I just feel quite fascinating because now more and more I hear my friend from New Zealand, they take this Matariki festival more and more serious. And just when we decide to make this episode, we heard one fascinating news. Very happy for Maori people, also very, very happy for New Zealand. And also I'm quite proud for astrologers, because now the Matariki, this festival, become an official public holiday in New Zealand.
Wow. Wow.
So it used to be, you know, Aboriginal holiday, but now it's official. So they are recognized. This is an important day for Maori. And this year they will celebrate at 24th of June. And I just check the weather. I just check the calendar. That's after waning moon. After waning moon, before new moon, after waning moon. So why is so important? That there's a few things we need to know. Is the first things they do the prediction by observing the star. Remember I say the Matariki, 8 children of Matariki goddess are related to food, wind, and rain, and fish, and the harvest. So they really do make the prediction according each stars, their shape, and their visibility. It's quite interesting. The second thing is my favorite story. When every time I talk about Orion and Pleiades, I want to talk about this story. Remember when we beginning, I just tell about this canoe, this Te Waka Orange, the canoe of range, is formed between the Orion in this bit, and then the Matariki, the Pleiades. So Maori believe the I couldn't point in this way, so I have to do this. So well, here's Orion, and here is Pleiades. Well, what Maori believe is that the god of the Tamamanuku, who drive this Te Waka Orange canoe across the sky, and this canoe guiding by Pleiades, Matariki. Then every night he casts a net to collect those souls of people who die on that day, night after night. But around May and June, this is the time when this part of sky, including Matariki, include Pleiades and Orion, it's become a rising line hidden in fixed star. This is so important. This is an important stage too. That means they are still in the sky, but they are in the sky with the sun. So sunlight block it. We couldn't see it. I think, Christian, next time we should talk about is they have a spatial state in interpretation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they are blocked by sunlight, so we couldn't see them. But what Maori believe is at this time they are in another world. They are in underground. So what they think is at this time, the Tamamanuku and and those soul he collect is in the underground, and they traveling through the underground until Matariki again in around June and July become Heliacal rising. They come back to our worlds. So this is the time they cross, they pass the underworld and back to the sky. Then this is the time Taramanuku release all this soul and make them become the star. And so for Maori, this is the time, Matariki, they mourn for those people who passed away during last year, because now they become the star. A beautiful story, and during this time they will pray to them, they will mourn them until look at those stars and say, now you become the star. How beautiful it is. I really, really, I have to tell this story. So I give an example. So this is what I check from the stellarium. I use Oakland because it's much easier. So the a chronicle setting of Matariki this year is on 1st of May. And this is the last time we see it after sunset, and it's become the rising and lying hidden. Until the 8th of June, it will first thing rise before the sun become heliacal rising. So during this time, Maori, nearly 1 month and 1 week, Maori believe all this soul is and this boat, Te Waka Orange, is traveling underworld until the early June. They come back and all the soul become the stars. Well, I mean, that is my part, and we can see a lot of similar points between Maori culture, ancient Asia culture, Babylonian, Greek. They have a lot of similarity. The eye, or the sadness, and also related to winter, life and death. I remember you talking about the related to life and death.
Yes.
There's related to two words. That is wow. You just like feel quite. I feel quite interesting. So that's why when you mentioned about the big part of the star lore related to Pleiades may be related when our ancestors leave Africa. That is, amazing. I really like this idea. Well, another part, I'm going to show you some of my work, but part of them you already see it because I don't have many. But I want to show you how different size of a lens or camera you can see the Pleiades. So this one would be like what you see on your mobile phone, but I took it with the 100mm lens, so it's not big. It's not big, but you can see those light dot. So with this, you can try your eyesight. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, anyway, this is cheating because it's not really see with your eye, but this is the Pleiades when the up photo. But then the next one is my favorite one. I take nearly 2 hours shot.
Oh,
So this is 2 hours. My camera and telescope just follow the Pleiades for 2 hours, and you can see those brightness. In the beginning, I don't know what are they. I just like before when I do that photo, I will see those bright things. I say, oh, interesting. The star glow like that. Their brightness, their glow is so interesting. Then when I eventually took a large telescope and really look into inside of our Pleiades, then I can see, no, these are gas. These are those star gas, those, cluster things. Like a nebula, they have their gas, and this is also the gas around them. No wonder ancient Chinese people say they are hairy. They do look like hairy, pretty hairy, yes.
like the vial,
Yes.
between the two worlds. Yes.
Yeah, you're right, like a vial. So they like kind of you can't see clear. Yeah. So well, Christian, put it together. today we talk about so many stories. What's your if you if I invite you to give few word, few character to think to relate it to Pleiades, what you will give?
After listening to your Matariki story, and all the parallels you have to the Celtic and so on, I think it's really these two worlds and this thin veil between them, and that they're actually one. And maybe a person with a lot of Pleiades in their chart have the ability to have intuitive insights or third eye vision, or however you might call it. So these two worlds, and enter these two worlds, have a feeling for these two worlds. Maybe especially after your story, this comes to my mind, and I really love the idea that it's so similar. This is even different dates. The Matariki thing is in June, you said.
Yeah. But no, don't forget, because in June for them is their winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's always
You're right.
related to winter too.
Yes, it's related to the winter too.
Yeah.
We have it here in November with the Martin's Day and so on. And it's nearly the same. So it's really interesting how these is different but the same.
Yes, I agree. I agree. That's why I like it to do in this series with you. We always compare different culture and different style, and sometimes we can find a little bit similarity in a different culture. And when we do that, it's like, oh, it's worse. At least we share the things we love most, to be honest.
Yeah, even when we have to talk about difficult names.
Like to be honest, like today you have to read all the Seven Sisters name. I was like so happy you can do that. And my challenge is those Polynesian, because I'm not from there. So for me, it's like I try, but well, if I make a mistake and you want to correct me, please let me know. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Let's talk about fixed star, and this week we talk about a very, very famous and important fixed star, Pleiades, and the story around the world, from Babylonian to Greek to Chinese and to Polynesian and North Europe, and they all related to chicken or goose. And so we really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. If you have any question and the feedback, please email to us at aoainquiry@gmail.com. Next week, on 6th of May, our faculty team will come back and we'll talk about transit in May. And also on the 30th of May is the World Scope Mundane Discussion Group panel. So, until next time, see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.